Okay, so I've been out of town. Funny enough, I finished a One Piece 1088 video right before I left to go out of town, and guess what? I did not finish it because it's harder to make videos here than I thought. That being said, I'm just here to kind of go over 1088 real quick because honestly, 1089 was way more interesting. So I'm gonna go over 1088 real quick, then I'll get into 1089. I'll try to make this video pretty quickly because it's probably going to be a disaster to edit because I'm just going off top right now. The usual, go ahead and subscribe. When I hit 1,000, there's going to be a prize. Honestly, when I hit 100, maybe I'll buy somebody some food, some pizza, something like that. You know, something simple. It's funny because usually my sound sounds really bad because I'll have the air conditioning going on in the background. Here, I don't have any air conditioning and it's even hotter. So it's just really hot. I'm just cooking making this video and my sound is still probably garbage, which is funny because I have a $400 microphone and it doesn't seem to be working that well. Anyways, let me get into what's going on here. So to me, probably the GOAT of One Piece YouTube is Randy Troy. And he always talks about how Oda kind of formats his story in these 10 chapter blocks. So for me, 1088 was really a part 2 to 1087, us seeing the aftermath of the things that happened there. And then we were always going to kind of get 1089 as this kind of wrap up chapter to this kind of section that has involved the Marines and Hachinosu, and we haven't been to Egghead in a while, so this is going to be kind of our introduction right back into Egghead. In the next 10 chapters from here on out, it's probably going to be all the fallout and aftermath from what's going on with Egghead right now. So 1088, I mean, if you're watching this video, you know what happened. Garp didn't go out like no B word. Kobe didn't go out like no B word. I was wrong. I said someone was going to show up, and Kobe, you know, I was saying Kobe was kind of looking like a fraud, but he did his thing. I can't complain. Kobe came through, honesty, impact. The attack probably needs a new name. It is what it is. Garp has been defeated by the Blackbeard Pirates after he got jumped, even though he slept some of them, and we are left seeing him laughing. You know, we're kind of led to believe, oh, is he dead? Is he not? We know he's not dead. Come on, this is One Piece. Garp is not dead. He hasn't met Luffy. He hasn't talked about Dragon, anything like that. Garp has not got the closure necessary to just straight up die. So that leads us into 1089, which to me is crazy. Like when I really sit back and think about everything this chapter is like trying to tell us, I'm like, wow, this is a pretty crazy chapter. There's a lot of information in this one. Before I give a quick summary of the plot, I just want to talk about how the first thing we are reading here is about Garp. Have you seen that Garp is captured? To me, that's saying he's not dead. The story goes out of his way to mention, oh, it doesn't say he's dead. So that's Oda's way of trying to say, by the way, Garp's not dead. So if you want to briefly kind of summarize this chapter, it's pretty simple. We see the effects that the Leluzia attack had all throughout the world, all through different parts of the world. We see different countries and their reaction. And then we go to Egghead. We see that the Marines are finally pulling up for real, for real. We see that they got a whole crew. We see that they got a whole squad ready to go into action. I don't think these people are going to fight the Straw Hats. I'm not sure. Let's be honest. Most of the Straw Hats are going to body some Vice Admiral. So that's what the main squad is capable of by now. I think mostly we're going to get Kizaru get packed up by somebody, which would be crazy. Like this is supposed to be a crazy event. This keeps getting hyped up as some wild event. Let me not get too much into that. Let me finish summarizing what happens. Then we see the girl say they talk to York on the phone. York's like, yeah, I got you, Mother Flame. I'll make it, blah, 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 blah. And then at the end, we see York is on the phone. They making York talk. We get this crazy double spread of the Straw Hats who we ain't seen in months. And it looks crazy. It looks amazing. Oda knew what he was doing with that one. He cooked. And now we're going to go back into the Straw Hats part of the story and see what they do for this next block of chapters. So going back to what I was talking about earlier with Garp still being alive, like we go back and we see all these different effects. We go to Fuchsia Village. We see Makino's son. A lot of people think this is Shank's son, but it's Makino's son. We can confirm that. And we see when he sees a picture of Luffy, this little boy gets brought some joy. Very interesting. Why is this little boy being brought joy? I wonder why. I don't know. I don't have to spell it out for you. Anyways, we go through, we see a bunch of familiar characters, but the real important thing is that all these natural disasters occurring, the tides are changing, and this all stems from the weapon that was used by Imu on Leluzia. It leaves a big hole that looks extremely familiar. And because of this big hole, all these different earthquakes occur and the sea level rises globally by 1 meter. So I recently saw a theory. I really wish I knew who it was. I got to go back and look through my history to see. And it was highlighting how Oda, especially in the early story, he's very much into the idea of like poles and magnetism and all these different things. Like, he goes out of his way to show that it's important to the One Piece world and how things got this way, because One Piece is a very quirky story where all these quirky things that you sit back and think, wow, this is like supposed to be this fantastical setting, but really nature itself has just been impacted so much by all these crazy events to where you get all these different things like long ring, long land, and you get water 7 sinking every year. And we know Oda loves his commentary, so I think what he's really trying to say is the government is causing nature to be destroyed and is causing all these different shifts in the natural balance of the world, and he's trying to say this is an inherently bad thing. Let's not get into that too much, but there was this theory and it talked about that. I think it might have been before this chapter came out, and it was basically trying to say what the One Piece actually was. I don't want to spoil that theory for anybody, but basically it was heavy emphasis on how early in the story Oda was so much into poles, magnetism, the reason that the world is the way it was. Like, he was very much into the science behind all of this. So having this chapter come out right after I saw that theory, it kind of makes me think like, Oda's starting to kind of reveal why things are the way they are in One Piece. The idea that this is the final saga and we just happen to get this mention of the global sea level rising and why it did and all these different scientific things that are starting to be incorporated into the story, my interest is piqued. That's all I'm gonna say. Now back to Egghead. We had some things happen off screen. Some of our crew members were turned to stone not too long ago, and we see at the Double Age spread that they figured everything out, they got everything under control. And it kind of makes sense. A lot of people kind of had this sentiment that it's a good thing that these fights were off screen because they didn't really provide much to the story. And I kind of agree. It kind of has helped move things along quickly. Like, we don't need to, like, to me, after the York reveal that York was actually the traitor, I don't think there's really anything that would be surprising that we missed out on. Oh, we have some Straw Hats turned to stone. Like, what do you think is going to happen? They're going to come back, right? So we were able to kind of skip over the appetizer. We want the whole load. We want a whole taste. So really, we're left wondering, where's the story going next? There's a couple things that need to happen here, in my opinion. So we can't forget about the Blackbeard Pirates. I think they're going to come into play after this kind of next set of events happen. It's interesting. We see Saint J. Garcia Saturn being a glizzy man. He's over there enjoying his sausage. The mention of those ships that were escaping and whether they should just blow them up or not. I think it's cool to see his ruthlessness where he just said, oh yeah, sink them, like get them out of here, pack them up. But at the same time, I think maybe they'll come into play with what Blackbeard and his pirates are trying to do. I mean, because obviously those ships have some information that would be pivotal for Blackbeard, and maybe Blackbeard could take him hostage. He seems to like doing that. So basically everybody knows that Katarina Devon and Lafitte are the ones that are probably on the Blackbeard ship. I don't think they're really going to get involved in a fight immediately, especially when we have the whole Straw Hat crew together who would pack them up pretty efficiently, like Luffy, Sanji, Zoro, Jinbei. Yeah, it's a wrap for Katarina Devon and Lafitte, let's be honest. So I think they have some ulterior motive at play here. Before we even get to all that and where they stand in the story, this next part, we gonna have our first ever pack watch for an admiral, unless you want to count Green Bull. I don't really count that, but I feel like Kizaru is for real about to get packed up, and I feel like Jay Garcia is going to take some damage, because there has to be something that makes this event so crazy as the news spreads across the world. There has to be something that has essentially never happened in the news in recent times, and an admiral being completely packed up and a Gorosei member being attacked. That's something we haven't seen. So I think we're going to get a fight. I think some of our more miscellaneous characters, like some of our Vegapunks out there, and I think some of our CP0 agents that we have out there, I think they're going to be the ones that maybe fight the Marines. That may be who the Vice Admirals are for. I think the Seraphim are going to turn on the Straw Hats and our whole little allied forces we have here. I mean, because if you look at the levels of authority chip, the Gorosei are the first on there. So the Gorosei is just going to be like, hey, Seraphim, you work for me. Bam, there you go. That's settled. Overall, though, I do think the Straw Hats have a plan. They have got a good amount of people allied with them, kind of locked up. They kind of locked up together, and they over there eating, enjoying themselves. But, you know, they got CP0, they got Vegapunk. To me, I think they kind of have a plan ready. And while I'm not sure what this plan is, I think it's going to take whatever the Marines have in store by surprise. And then after this whole kind of fight breaks out, probably gonna have Luffy versus Kizaru, something like that. I mean, maybe even Zoro versus Kizaru and Luffy versus, you know, Jay Garcia. I don't know, but that's where it's headed. And then after all this kind of takes place, Then we have the Blackbeard pirates get involved, and then they go in, they get something out of this, whether that's information. They're not kidnapping Robin. I think that's just way too bold for them to try and do with whatever crew members they have kind of left behind, because we've seen a big amount of Blackbeard's crew back at Hachinosu. We've seen the other set of Blackbeard's crew dealing with Law. So I don't think they just immediately went from those events to go and try and kidnap Nico Robin. That would be crazy. So all in all, wonderful chapter. I think I would honestly say it was even better than the last one. Once again, this run has been crazy. So what is even the point of pitting chapters against each other at this point? I do think we did get a lot of juicy information in this chapter, and I do think kind of the next few chapters will kind of be more action packed. So we've been getting a lot of exposition lately, so we'll see. I'm gonna keep it going if y'all keep it going. Thanks, y'all.